All right. Hello and welcome to Design Your Life with Jackie and me, Amy, and our friend, functional medicine nutritionist nurse, Coco. Wee!
Yes. Thank you for
Welcome.
having me. Thank you.
And
So excited to talk to you today.
yeah, we're going to talk about all things nutrition. And for those of you who are new to Design Your Life podcast, Jackie and I are both women's school strategists or women's school coaches from the women's school. So if you want to go ahead and look that up, or we're going to put it in the link in the bio somewhere. We are a curated, transformative 8-month program to help women to be the best that they can be in the whole arena of a woman. And that's her self-image, her health, her physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional well-being, her friendships, her intimacy, her contribution, her environment, her wealth, and her family life, and how we're all integrated within that. And so we have Coco on here today to just kind of walk us through functional medicine and the difference between functional medicine and conventional medicine and all those things. So,
Yay.
welcome you, and we're excited.
That's me. That's where I start. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Amy and Jackie, for having me on today. I've been super excited, and I even showered for this event. So I have 3 little ones of my own, and one of them is, I think, 2 months old now. So very, very little ones. So I was excited to talk to other adults today instead of tiny adults who just yell at me and babble. So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, so we can, just jump right into it. Let's go ahead and discuss conventional medicine versus, more of a, I guess, like alternative medicine is probably what I would call it. Alternative. So functional medicine, some people aren't super familiar with what that even is. So functional medicine is more of a holistic whole body approach to something. Right. So conventional medicine or traditional medicine might look at the person and say, okay, we have something physically wrong with this person. Let's fix the physical thing that is wrong with this person. Whereas if you're seeing maybe a functional medicine doctor, nurse, nutritionist, they are going to look at you and say, whoa, you have something physically wrong with you. But what other things are going on that are contributing to that physical illness? So that might be, things similar to the women's school is, your environment, your spiritual life, how's your mental health, all of those things. So they all encompass one another. And I also do want to say, as a disclaimer, we do not hate conventional medicine. We don't despise traditional medicine. I'm very much not one of those people who's like, oh my gosh, you broke your femur. Did you try these oils? Did you try to rub the essential oils on it? Like, no. They complement each other. Yeah, no. They complement each other beautifully. And once we learn how to integrate those two, I feel like that's when we really thrive as a person, as a woman. And so that's kind of what I seek to do in the everyday. So I started out in traditional medicine. I worked as a trauma burn ICU nurse. I worked as a home health nurse in pediatrics. I worked in kind of like an urgent care setting. And with all of those things, I was kind of like, it's like, I feel like we're missing something. I was having these patients who, yes, they were coming in critical condition, right? They had these acute conditions. So acute is like, short-term kind of a thing. You'd have somebody come in with a burn, right? You go ahead, you fix the burn, you dress it, and then, you basically send them home. You discharge them. Say, follow up with your PCP. You tell everybody that. Most people don't follow up with their PCP. They go home and they're like, oh, I burnt my hand. Now what do I do? And they don't know what to do. And there's this big gap in healthcare where traditional medicine is extremely, extremely good at taking care of those acute conditions. Where you come in for a heart attack, they save you. You come in with kidney failure, they fix it up, they get you going. But what they lack is taking care of the chronic conditions. And what we're seeing right now is a lot of people with chronic conditions. And so those are the people who, they suffer from rheumatoid arthritis. They might have irritable bowel syndrome. They have diverticulitis or diverticulosis, which is, like a stomach upset and, things like that. They have food allergies or hypersensitivities that, unfortunately, traditional medicine doesn't always have the resources or time to really investigate. And so that's kind of where I see functional medicine coming in, is for those more chronic conditions. And so basically what I do is I focus on food as medicine without fixation. So that is using food as medicine in the everyday, saying, I feel kind of swollen, my joints feel kind of swollen. And instead of taking something like an ibuprofen, I would say, let's try some turmeric. Let's add some turmeric into your diet. That's a natural anti-inflammatory. Or let's try celery juice. Celery juice mimics they talk about like water pills. If your blood pressure's high, they give you a water pill and you pee it all out or whatever. Celery juice acts the same way in the body. And it is amazing. No side effects. You just drink. You're drinking a lot of celery juice. But if you put other things in it, it's not so bad. No one wants to drink straight celery juice, but
Yeah.
The benefits are amazing. So that's kind of, I guess, what I do, where I kind of come in with more naturopathic stuff. And because I do have both traditional medicine and more naturopathic functional medicine, both of them in my pocket, I'm able to integrate them. So I'm able to read different labs and stuff from traditional medicine and say, okay, well, our functional medicine labs are more sensitive, or they have different parameters, compared to a traditional medicine. So while in traditional medicine, your thyroid looks totally fine, when you come over to my functional medicine side and I do your lab work, it comes up that you are hypothyroid. You have some sort of a thyroid condition. And so that's kind of where I'm fitting into this, where functional medicine is fitting into this. So hopefully that makes sense. That was a lot all at once.
I loved it though. It's really informative because I've kind of looked into it, but I really am like so ground level, like probably basement level actually, on knowledge about functional medicine and everything, but I'm fascinated by it. So I can't wait to hear what else you share with us.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I remember when I was, my second child was born, and my sister, she is a registered dietitian. She worked in conventional for a very long time, and then gradually went over more to the side of alternative and homeopathic and all that other stuff. And that's what she's still practicing today. But I remember when I had my second born and I was going through postpartum depression, I'm calling up my sister. I was like, do you have something that can help me out? And she's like, no, I don't. Get to a hospital right now.
Yes.
And I loved that because it gave me such a freedom to not be that, and again, I was not in my right mind at the time, be that perfect parent of doing everything holistic, and I can't have, no, it was like, it just gave me that permission to go and get on something, because that's what emergency medicine is for people who are struggling in that particular instance. So I really appreciated you saying, hey, it's not that I hate them. And we work together very well. It's just a matter of, just seeing everything as a whole. Because you're right, you can't go into a hospital with a broken femur expecting, hoping for oils.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of where there's that gap. And also you kind of like led to this thought. My big thing is food is medicine without fixation, right? So I think a lot of times as women and, especially as mothers, we want to do what's best for our body. And while the holistic naturopathic community can be very welcoming, there's also a lot of toxicity in that. And that's where you have to be careful, because yes, there's a beautiful balance, I think, between traditional medicine and naturopathic medicine. But I think what happens is sometimes you get in these like mom groups or these women's groups, and they're like crazy about this naturopathic medicine. They would never set foot in a hospital. They would never bring their kid to the PCP. And at some point, like you said, you kind of just need somebody to give you permission. And I give you permission. Like if your kid has an ear infection, like sure, could you put some, what do they put in there? Like garlic oil, or tape the onion to the ear? Yeah, absolutely you can. But part of practical mama wellness is, let's be practical. If you have 2 other kids, one of your kids has an ear infection, I mean, you might not be able to be like, okay, let's put this garlic slice in your ear, especially if they're a toddler, forget that, and that's when you can turn to traditional medicine. It's not that you didn't try, you tried. And for each person, it's different. But there is that toxicity of feeling that pressure to, go outside and pick grass or dandelions and like rub it all over your kid and be like, okay, that should do it. Because Susie Q on the internet, who is just an influencer, has no degree, nothing. She said, I could lower 106-degree fever if I just rub my kid's face with dandelions. Like some of the things that are suggested are just, I hate to say it, but like some of them are just nonsense. I do a lot of my own research. I like peer-reviewed research. I like big clinical trials. I want to see that science, that information. And if I don't see it, I don't suggest it. I really don't.
Okay.
Even I know a lot of people, something popular right now is doing these detox baths. So you're taking like the Aztec clay stuff and you're putting it in your bath and you're like detoxing your body apparently or something. There's actually no science behind that. That was an influencer came up with that and decided, if you put this clay stuff in your bath, then you could detox like through your skin. But our body detoxes naturally. There's so many different ways to detox. And also the clay clogs your pipes. So that's even better.
That's what I was thinking, like
that's like putting antiperspirant on it. You know what I mean? What am I saying?
Yeah.
The underarm stuff.
Antiperspirant.
Yeah. Thank you. That's like putting that on, like, and then you're expecting to, detoxify your body with that. No.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. So you really need somebody who, is like me, who can really just see both sides and understand the importance of both, but also be practical. Because in this day and age, would I love to be making sourdough bread and doing all these, like making my own cheese and have a cow in the backyard? Like, yes, absolutely. Yes. Does my budget or time allow for that? No. I have 3 under 3. I'm lucky if I eat a piece of bread during the day, but there are healthier choices you can make without breaking the bank too.
Right.
That's a really big thing right now. Like Whole Foods, whole paycheck. You know what I mean? So you really need like a good balance. And Aldi has great choices.
Yes.
Yes, they do. But also Miss Jacki over here, she's a sourdough breaking, bread making kombucha lady.
Okay, I try. But again, I don't have any under 3 anymore. I only have a 16-year-old left at home. But, like when I'm doing meetings and stuff during the day, it is hard because you have to think about, okay, do I have time to do stretch and folds in between these meetings? But I have found sourdough is a lot more forgiving than a lot of what I've read out there and what I've seen out there. So I will say, if I can do sourdough, anyone can do sourdough, as long as you think ahead. Probably not with 3 under 3, but
I'm out.
Right.
There's
I'm already done.
The moms with older kids. And I have a friend actually who I didn't realize she did sourdough until we had a sourdough class at my house. And she said she's taught her older girls how to fold and stretch and all the things. So when she run out, she has people that can actually take care of the sourdough. So that's a good tip. If you can do it and you can find the time to do it, it is easier than they say it is. But you can also buy sourdough at Publix or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm not advertising Publix, but that's our local grocery store.
You're allowed to advertise Publix, and that's like, I don't want people to feel ashamed of where they shop. I don't want people to feel ashamed. Like if you're in the middle of nowhere and your kids are starving and stuff, and you have to go to Burger King, like what are you gonna do? Feed them a pine cone?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we have to be practical. We have to give ourselves permission and love ourselves through that. I think there is we talked about like so much guilt with that.
Yes.
So you know what? Publix all the way. Publix has good stuff. I've only been to one time. They had very good sandwiches.
But
I
I
do remember
actually
that.
don't shop there. But I'm a Costco girl, so you know, they have
I don't,
great organic stuff for really reasonable prices compared to other places like the local shops that we go to or Aldi. So like I do Costco and Aldi, so those are my two favorites for, and you can buy like the better stuff, organic and things like that for a
Mhm.
more reasonable and affordable price. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
One of the things that I've noticed too in with conventional medicine is that, you know, because you had said something about the earaches, and with a child who has chronic ear like I did when I was a kid, I was constantly put on antibiotics. You know, through my little growing stages there. Um, I think it is so important in our health that we support our gut during those times of antibiotics. Like my brother actually just went through something really horrific over the summertime. He got a bee sting and it got infected. And
ooh,
it was so bad that he had to go to the hospital and they had to pump these massive, like 4 different types of antibiotics in his gut, you know, just to get rid of this infection that he got from a bee sting. Which I'm like, really?
yeah, it
But
happened.
It
I was like,
happens.
what are you doing to support your gut? And he's like, kombucha. And I was like, oh yeah, might want to do a little bit more. You know?
Yeah.
This calls from like some serious major, you know, helping at least fostering something within the gut. So
Mm.
what are your thoughts on
Right. Right. Exactly. And I think that's something that a lot of doctors, a lot of conventional medicine people are missing. Usually most doctors, they only take 1 or 2 nutrition classes and, it's kind of, dismissed, they work on other things, which is great and like good for them. I love the nutrition part where we really have to understand that if we are going to use something like a conventional medicine, so antibiotics kill the good and the bad bacteria, right?
Right.
So most of the time, if you're put on an antibiotic, they'll say, "Oh, make sure you eat some yogurt with some probiotics in it," and you're kind of like, "Okay." And you go to the store, and there's 800 million different types of yogurt that all
Right.
have different strains of probiotic in it, and you're like, "Should I eat all of them?" But then you're like, But then I think then you're like, "But kombucha is good for my gut." And what I see a lot of people doing is they're having kombucha, they're having fermented foods, they're having all the probiotics, and then they're taking another probiotic. And in that way, they're like overdoing it, you know?
Mhm.
So you're going to have issues anyway. As far as like if you're on a probiotic, there are different strains depending on what you're going through. There are different strains of bacteria that are more beneficial for some people and not beneficial for other people.
Interesting.
So yeah, so most people, like if you go and you get a yogurt or something, it's I'm gonna butcher this. It is the lactobacillus strain, and then there is one, I think it's the lactobacillus strain or something like that. I always remember it's like the L and B, pretty much in everything. But there are other ones, other, smaller amounts of, these different genres of bacteria, these different species, I guess you could say, where some of them are very helpful in fighting infections. Some of them are very helpful with, for your mental health. Some of them only work in women who are 55 and up. Some
Well,
of them are good for younger women. And
huh.
that's not what they're saying. So you're going to the store and you're buying this $8 million probiotic and you're like, this will definitely work. But maybe you're not buying the optimal one for you personally.
Huh.
So that's also something to consider. But yeah, if you are on an antibiotic or something like that, it's good to have, to understand that nutrition part, but to also understand yourself, your individuality, and to understand, okay, because I'm this age, I should be looking for this probiotic or, this kind of kombucha or, this sort of thing. And so that's super important. And there's so much our gut, and Amy, you kind of said this, our gut is like the epitome. Like when I think about health in the body, it's like the gut and then everything like expands from that. Truly. There are so
Yeah.
many hormones. A lot of our I mean, if you look up the gut-brain axis, a lot of our mood disorders, anxiety, all these things, they start in the gut. And
Mhm.
so what happens a lot of times is we're having these, antibiotics. We're pretty much like ODing on these probiotics because everyone's like probiotics, probiotics, and it sounds good. So let's eat all of them. And what happens is there's these cells in the stomach and they're supposed to be like this, right? And so what happens over time, you're doing all these things, you're damaging your gut, you're, I don't know, like slurping slushies, I don't know, whatever you're doing, but you're doing it every day and you're not taking care of your body. Every once in a while, it's like, but every day, right? And so you have these cells that are supposed to be like this, right? And they prevent anything from going through, anything bad from going through to the rest of the body. The gut's like, yeah, we got this. Over time, what happens with inflammation and the gut not doing so well is these cells start to come apart, right? And so now we have bad stuff going in through the body. We have these big molecules that are not supposed to be going through that. We have inflammation coming through, and that's where we really see chronic conditions. So something that I try to tell people is you take care of your gut, and that's like number one, but you have to
Yes.
take care of it properly. And I
Yes.
know I'm talking a lot, but like I've loved this stuff so much. So sorry, people listening, you're probably like, okay, whatever, like get on to the next topic. But seriously, gut is so important, but you need somebody to lead you, to help you, who is knowledgeable and can say, oh yeah, try this, this, and that, who is not an influencer and working for some random brand of
Mhm.
supplement. You
Right.
really have to get somebody who's indifferent about, which supplement you choose and stuff, and just wants to do the best for you as a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what's hard,
I love, I love all of this. One of the things that Jackie and I were talking about yesterday was uh, how did I say it, Jackie? Like, because
Amyisms are too beautiful to come out of my mouth.
one of the things that we were talking about is you have the gut, you have also family of origin and things of that nature. You know, and you know, just because grandma had it or mom has it or dad has it doesn't mean that you're going to have it. And that was one of the things that was hammered into me as a kid, is that, oh, your grandparents are fat, so you're going to be fat as a little
Right.
kid, so
Yeah.
that's all being soaked in. But as we're understanding medicine more and more and more, and disease starts in the gut, just because it's a predisposition doesn't make it a predestination.
Right.
correct.
Right. And if your gut is like you said, there, and then it expands out everywhere else, having that healthy gut, you have a better chance. Even if you do get it, you have a better chance of fighting it because you now have a healthy gut, or
Right.
you're continuing that healthy gut, supporting it.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think,
And you have oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jackie.
go ahead. I'm gonna cough.
Jackie has to cough.
You go ahead.
I was I was gonna say, along with that is you have those cultural differences, you have the ethnic differences. People come from all over the place, and it's beautiful. We love the diversity, right? But that all plays a part in the food relationship.
Mhm.
You know, you have to think about your past experiences with food, right?
Yeah.
I always kind of had the parents who were like, "Oh, finish all your food," but then later they would be like, "You need bigger clothes," and so then you're kind of like, "Wait,
Hmm.
but you told me to eat all my food, but I just don't understand." And so we grow up as adults, and we're like, "I don't know what my relationship with food is."
Right.
And so it's very hard. Or maybe you grew up in, more of a traditional Italian family or more of a traditional Indian family. And you come out of, you burst into adult life and you're kind of like, oh, these people aren't eating the same way that I do. And
Mhm.
are the things that I'm eating, and these cultural differences, and even like fasting for different religious purposes, all of these things play a part in our health and our gut health. And you have to consider, each person is an individual. They have different past experiences, they have different present experiences, and they're going to have different future experiences. The part that I think is important is, like you said, predisposition doesn't, go right into predestination. And so it's so important to, at least for me, it's like, okay, let's work on the here and now, and it'll build the future,
Yes.
but also considering those past experiences, and some of those are really damaging, especially because, I mean, like for me, my parents didn't know, they were giving us red dye 40 like it was nothing. I was like, baby bottle pops were like super pop. Like you would take sugar and just dip it in sugar.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, nobody thought that like that wasn't good.
Yeah.
With that.
How about it? That was the best. In the 80s, I feel like we grew up on, like, we were this generation of experimental food, like where they started that process of, the processed foods and everything. I mean, Twinkies were a food category in our homes.
Yeah.
And ravioli.
And it's nostalgic.
Oh
it's nostalgic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now it's not. It makes me sick to think about eating them, but my husband loves it when I go out of town because he buys up the raviolis that I won't let him eat normally. But I have to say, even now, he's kind of stopped doing that because he's not enjoying them as much as he used to either. But cereals are still the thing. Captain Crunch is like, and Aldi makes a great, apparently they make either generic Captain Crunch or they actually have real Captain Crunch. I don't know, but that's a thing. So, and I just I tried it one time and I was like, oh, I can taste, the horribleness and, the cereal now. But, growing up as a kid, that was Saturday mornings were the best because you got to have the prize and cereal.
Yeah. And it's so hard because we're like, all these kids have behavioral problems and stuff now. But I'm like, since the time these kids open their eyes, they're just inundated with sugar.
Yeah.
And we're like, here's some more sugar, and here's some sugar for lunch, and here's some sugar for snack time, and here's this, and all these dyes and stuff. We really don't know the long-term effects of that stuff. We really don't. We know it's, bad. I don't like to say bad or good. I like to say more and less nutrient dense, So yeah, you have Captain Crunch. It's not as nutrient dense, but let's load up on some nutrient dense stuff, not out of guilt, not out of shame.
No.
But just in taking care of our bodies, you have a Hershey chocolate bar, it's nutrient dense, no big deal. Choose something that's a little bit more nutrient dense later in the day.
Right.
That's okay. Because a lot of times when we have those cravings or we feel guilty, I want the Captain Crunch.
Yeah.
Sometimes what we do, at least I do this, and it is something, I catch with my clients too, is you're craving the pizza or the Captain Crunch. And so you're like, no problem. And you go on Pinterest and you look up Captain Crunch dupe. And then you go and you're in the kitchen for 2 hours and you're trying to make this snack that's supposed to kind of taste like Captain Crunch, but it's healthy and it satisfies your craving for it. And so what happens, right. I'm talking about Jackie. No, I'm just kidding. And so what you do is you end up shaming and guilting yourself into trying to make this concoction of something that tastes like Captain Crunch to satisfy your cravings. And all we end up doing is wasting a lot of time, feeling super guilty about it, trying all these strange recipes with expensive ingredients, and none of it tastes like Captain Crunch. And at the end of it, what happens? We binge on the Captain Crunch.
Yes.
Right?
Binge on the Captain Crunch.
But can I just say,
just had the Captain
burn
Crunch.
those calories while we made that 2 hours. It did not satisfy us.
Right? Exactly.
Better.
Exactly. And what I would say is, okay, those are empty calories. They're not as nutrient dense calories. And, next time, what can we do? All foods fit. All foods fit.
Yeah. I love that. I love that approach. That's what Dish It Out does too. Just
yes.
You know that.
Well, and I think that's where the thing that I've learned so well from, doing our masterclass with the Wholeness School, Women's School, is just to know that it's so much not even about willpower and things like that, but it's just about the grace that you give yourself and also about the self-control. It's a skill, it's a virtue. And some faiths, our faith, we have that virtue of self-control is so important because I always say to my kids, just because you can do something doesn't mean you shouldn't. So if you're not eating those fruits and vegetables throughout the course of the day, then you probably shouldn't eat the Captain Crunch or, drink that soda. But if you're balancing things out, like, it's so
Right.
much about that, just being able to do the right things a majority of the time. But also, there is that thing with the food addiction, like there's that trigger. It triggers you into wanting more. So how do you
Right.
suggest to your clients, like, how do you handle that when you have, those cravings because you gave in to that Captain Crunch and then it makes you want more Captain Crunch?
Right. And then it escalates. And that's kind of this like not gray area, but this part where you're kind of like, oh, but
Mhm.
now I want more Captain Crunch. And then you end up binging and you eat the whole box.
Mhm.
Right. And then you feel guilty and you feel the shame and you think, I can't do this. So typically what I tell my clients is, okay, first of all, I try to take care of the psychological part of it. Right. So hey, we don't need to feel guilt. We don't need to feel shame. I'm not the food police. Right.
Right.
But let's address, okay, you're craving something that is super sugary, right? Let's find a whole food, a nutrient dense food that would maybe provide you with some of that sugary, kind of a taste, but it's nutrient dense, right? What I tell people, if you're craving a lot of sugar, try dried fruit. It is sugary, but it's a natural sugar. It's a pectin, right? And those pectins, the natural kind of fruit sugars, taste pretty good. And if you're craving something sugary, that's good. Some people crave crunchy stuff, right? So I'm
Yes.
like, what's something crunchy
Protein,
that's
crunchy.
nutrient dense? Yeah. What's something crunchy that's nutrient dense that we could kind of like munch on, and kind of satisfy that craving. I also tell people mindful eating is a great practice to get into. So when you're eating, you're saying to yourself, what does this look like?
Mhm.
What does this taste like when it hits my tongue? Like, do I sense the sweet, the sour? Is there salty? What is that feeling like? And you're chewing slowly, right? And ideally, all this would happen while you're sitting at a table, right? You're sitting at a table and your phone's not in front of you and your kids aren't yelling at you and, the TV's
Don't
not
have a book.
blasting,
Yeah.
right? You have all of these things, but it's just you and the food,
Mhm.
right? And I think people really need to ask themselves, and I ask myself this constantly, when was the last time you really tasted your food?
Mm.
When was the last time you sat down and you experienced the environment around you? What do you hear? What do you smell? Smelling food right before you eat it is an excellent way to jumpstart healthy digestion. A lot of people
Yes.
don't know that. Something
Yeah.
so simple, right? So even if you are having these sugary cravings, I think a lot of people, it becomes kind of mindless eating.
Right.
And that's where we get the binge eating because we're trying to fill this void and we're doing all these things. And then we're like, we hit the bottom of the bag and we're like, oh no,
Yeah.
like this is not good. And then the guilt and shame come in. But I have found that if you are consciously thinking, you're mindfully eating, you're kind of like, this tastes salty and sweet and all these things. People usually satisfy their craving, and it's a little bit smoother from there. I'm not saying that binge eating doesn't happen. And I'm not saying that that is not, important or something that needs to, be addressed with dish it out or something like that,
Yep.
right, exactly. So those are still things that need to be addressed, but there are very small steps that we can make towards, kind of going towards recovery with a food addiction. And it's also important to note that because we are bio individuals, so those with ADHD or attention deficit disorder, because their brain is working so fast, they often need more energy, more glucose from what they're eating. Right. So when I have an ADHD client come to me and they're like, I have a sugar addiction and it's so bad and I can't stop it and I don't know what to do. I'm like, oh, okay, let's up your calories of nutrient dense foods. Let's add a little bit more sugar in compared to somebody else because your brain is using more glucose because you're jumping from this thought to this thought to this thought to that thought. Your brain is using more energy than the average brain. And that's okay. And it's not bad. We just support it. functional medicine will support it.
Mhm.
I love that. I love hearing all of that. It is absolutely phenomenal. I love it. I just love it.
I felt like I was listening to Amy though.
Yes.
Like, you guys are really simpatico on your thought processes here and the things that you're sharing with us. But can I just say too, like, this is why I'm sitting here listening and I'm so fascinated, because I'm always thinking, like, I do all this research and then I get overwhelmed by all the information out there. And this is where having Coco come in and say, here I am. I'm here to help you. Like, and we talk all the time about Amy and I helping people. And there's so many people out there like you who are doing these things to help your clients, because it is overwhelming. There's so much information out there, and you don't know
It's
is
polarized
an
too.
influencer or
Yes.
an actual really qualified, individual. Because I really, thank God I'm pretty healthy, like I've got weight to lose and things like that. But overall, like, my body is pretty healthy, but I want to keep it healthy, because my dad had a heart attack in his 50s. He had cancer and then passed away from cancer. My mom had cancer. So it's kind of like, my brothers and I are really concerned about our health more so than, and I don't know how much of, like, my grandmother was a sugarholic. And they say, oh, it was passed down. My mother's a sugarholic. Yeah, sorry, mom, telling your secrets. But
You're just outing her right now. Just
I'm
completely outing her.
I don't have a sugar addiction, but my youngest
That's
child
okay.
does. But I don't know that it's necessarily a genetic thing. I'm hearing it's more like you're just used to eating it and you enjoy it, so then your body wants more of it, which is why I have this salt and crunchy thing,
Oh,
as
salt and
opposed to
crunchy.
the sugar thing, but I still have something. We all have something, I'm sure. But I love hearing that you are able to, like, kind of take that and say, yeah, let's look at that so you can keep me healthy before I ever have to worry about these things. And God willing, all of these different factors that you're talking about playing into it, that's not what I'm necessarily looking at in my next few years of, the future, because I'm doing what I can to mitigate those circumstances.
Right. And preventative medicine is the best medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people, because sometimes people are like, oh, it's kind of expensive to work with a functional medicine, nutritionist, all this stuff. Prices vary depending on where you are, depending on what you do. A lot of people I offer different payment plans, whatever's the person's comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this, you either invest in your health now or you invest in your illness later.
Yes.
You
Mhm.
choose, because you're going to have to do one of them. And people are like, oh, well, what do you mean invest in my illness? And I mean, different copays, all the specialty doctor appointments you're going to have to do. How about being, kind of like a burden to your family?
Mm-hmm.
You can't play with your grandkids. You can't even get out of the house.
Yeah.
You have a walker, you have all these things. What about time lost with family members?
Mm-hmm.
Those are things you're going to have to invest in, So investing in your health now, that preventative medicine is huge.
Right.
And that's kind of where you're coming from, Jackie. And I will say too, a lot of people think, and it could be true. The sugar cravings, the salty, crunchy cravings, come from our parents. And they very well could. I say a lot of it is a lifestyle that's passed down. Because I know for me, once, I started adulting, and I'm still figuring that out. Once I started adulting, you're kind of like, you go back to what you know.
Mm.
So, like, for me right now, I love English muffins. Like, I could just sit and eat English muffins, right? And the other day I was eating my English muffin and I was like, oh my gosh, my mom used to eat an English muffin every single day when I was in high school. And I was like,
It's time
oh my gosh. I know. I was like, it's like one of those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just like my mom.
Becoming my mom. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have to stay there. You don't have to stay there, right? So yes, my mom ate English muffins every single day when I was in high school, right? I love English muffins now. It's a quick, easy breakfast for myself. I don't feel guilty about it. I think they're delicious, but instead of just having the English muffin, I top it with some really good peanut butter and blueberries.
There you go.
We're elevating the English muffin.
Yeah.
Avocado. You can do all sorts of. I mean, even putting an egg on it. It just you're getting really great fats and proteins in there. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact, the magic word, I don't feel guilt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because how many times is Weight Watchers going to tell you, well, that's 5 points, that's this, that's, or Nutrisystem, or, and I'm not to say that they're evil in of themselves. If it works for you, okay. But there comes that point of, becoming too strict and too.
Yeah.
It's the obsession.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in a box. And
it's the dependency too, because like I found when I was doing Weight Watchers, I wasn't doing as well when I wasn't on Weight Watchers. When I was doing Weight Watchers, I did so much better, but it was because I craved that, like, that adrenaline rush of getting on the scale and someone going, oh, great job, being excited for me, because nobody's in my bathroom doing the same thing when I step on a scale,
It's just you and the scale.
It's just me and the scale. And but I might go tell people, oh, I lost 5 pounds, but like in that moment, it's like, oh, someone else. But then there was also that feeling of dread on the weeks that I didn't lose weight. And I'm like, am I going to get bashed right now? So
the look of condescending
of other people, like depending on others for either your happiness or your sadness, and not, that own ability to, help yourself to feel good. Hey, nobody else needs to know I lost 5 pounds because I know I lost 5 pounds. And hey, look at the way I feel. My clothes fit better. I have more energy, or whatever the case may be. So,
Yeah.
But
I always say, throw your scale out. It is about the way you feel and the way your clothes fit. Because one day you might be like, oh my gosh, my jeans are not as tight as they used to be. Celebrate it. Don't run and jump on the scale and be like, okay, I lost 1.78 pounds. And so I need to eat this number of calories now for the rest of my life. Like, get the numbers out, like, get them out. I don't do numbers. I don't do calorie counting. I don't do any of that stuff, right? Well, I don't have my clients do it, right? I do some of it behind the scenes. And then I present the meal plan to them. It doesn't have any numbers on it. It doesn't say, hey, let's shoot for this number for your healthy weight or whatever. I don't do that because that can really become a dangerous, dangerous path to go down on. And I know because I did it. When I was 16, I did that. And it destroyed me. It really did. I had the little Fitbit. I don't even know what the heck I had. It was like an app before, like, everything was like automated now. And I would scan stuff and I would type in the little numbers and I'd be like, ooh, okay, well, if I only eat 1,000 calories a day, I can lose this much weight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How dangerous is that? How dangerous?
1,200 calories. Like, my sister Brenda, like the Bridget dietitian, she's like, Amy, stop that. I'm like, no, but I've got to lose the weight because why?
It's the obsession.
Why?
Yes.
And you know what is so crazy? All that stress, counting all of that stuff makes you keep weight on. And people don't talk about that.
Yes.
People don't talk about that.
But you actually had me at meal plan.
What's that?
You had me at meal plan. I was like, oh, wait, I'm writing down meal plan. She said the magic words. Because let me just say, that is where my stress falls in, because I'm like, I don't know what to cook. I know all the healthy stuff we need to eat. I sent my husband to the local produce stand and he got a box full of beautiful looking fresh produce. Now, what do I do with it? Except for your Brussels sprouts recipe that you posted on Dish It Out, totally doing that tonight, because so our local stand has the Brussels sprouts that you pull off the stem yourself. That's how rich they are. So not only do I get to like have that little release of the crunch of them like coming off the stem, but I also get to add them with my pomegranates to that recipe that Amy posted. So anyway, meal plan. Yes. Like, can you give me a little, like, what do you do there?
Yeah. So typically what I do weekly meal plans, bi-weekly meal plans. So I work with a client and I say, first of all, what foods do you hate or you don't like the texture of them? Let's just get that out of the way, right? Do you have any food allergies? Yeah, that you know about. Do you have hypersensitivities? And sometimes hypersensitivities, you might eat, some people are hypersensitive to broccoli. It gives them gas, it makes their stomach upset, whatever, for whatever reason, right? Sometimes it's the pesticides on the broccoli that they don't wash off. But that's a whole different story and I won't go there.
Right.
But anyways, so we have this issue with broccoli, right? Food hypersensitivities can take hours to days to weeks to show up, right? So sometimes we're like, ooh, I'm having this allergic reaction. I'm having this food hypersensitivity. But maybe it was something from weeks ago. And we don't know. And that's where, lab testing can come in and stuff too. As far as meal planning goes, a lot of people undereat calories. And if you're undereating calories, what can happen is, and I kind of said this, if you're not eating enough calories, you're focused on losing all this weight, whatever, you create major inflammation in your body. You release cortisol, which is your stress hormone, right? And you get it right around your midsection. Because that is where the body will hold on to fat because first of all, it thinks that you're going to be starving soon, right? Yep. Because you are starving yourself. Yes. It thinks you're going to be starving soon. It's hanging on to your body and it won't go. It will not go until you bring that stress level down and that inflammation. It will not go. Right. So we're under eating these calories. One of the first things I do is tell people to eat a 2,000 calorie diet. Depending on what they're doing, I might even go higher than that. And some people are like, oh my gosh, this is so much food. I have people really struggle at first. They're like, this is way too much food. And I'm like, you're nourishing your body. I'm like, I know it seems crazy because it's not a, lean cuisine or it's not a 100 calorie fit snack, right? It's not a processed food. Not a processed food, right? It's a whole food. So that's one of the first things I do. Then I look at their different medical conditions. I do macros, right? So how much fat, how many carbs, and how much protein can we kind of shoot for, right? So if you're an epileptic, I'm going to bump up your protein, right? I'm going to make sure you have healthy fats in your diet because that's very essential for brain health. So depending on the person, that's kind of what I do. Then I take it. I have over 6,000 recipes that are all tried and true, so you don't have to go on Pinterest and read about somebody's life and how they love like quiche and how back in 1992, their grandfather made quiche and then they, drove on a boat over to America. I don't care about that. Like, just jump to the recipe. I click it 100 times. It doesn't always
work. It drives me insane when it doesn't work.
And, and there's 8,000. And there's 8 million ads, and you're like exiting them all out, and you're like, I just want to see the recipe. Like, I don't want to see this commercial for cars and all this other stuff I can't afford anyway.
Exactly.
So finally, you jump to the recipe, and you're like, is this even going to taste good? You have no idea. Right. So my recipes are all tried and true. There's 6,000 recipes that I've collected and it's a community of nutritionists and dietitians and we share the recipes with one another. Right. So if somebody tries the recipe and says, wow, this really wasn't that tasty, we take it off. We don't use it.
Nice.
So these are all tried recipes, no ads, no jump to recipe. I don't have to read you my entire family history because honestly, nobody cares. I just want the recipe. Like, honestly.
Yeah.
So I have that. Something else I include too is a grocery list. And it's all completely, so depending on how many people you're feeding, I adjust it to the different servings. And so I'll adjust it to the different servings and then it'll prompt a grocery list and everything is sorted. So we have produce, we have fats, we have seasonings and spices, we have meats and poultry and eggs. So everything is sorted by the different sections, depending on where you go. And so, that's kind of it. Depending on what people want to do too, sometimes I'll have them cook. Some people want to cook one time a week. I'm like, no problem. We'll cook one time a week. You have all the stuff you need. Some people say, I want a 1 ingredient snack the whole week. I say, no problem. We're going to do that. So depending on what the person's preferences are, depending on what their lifestyle is like maybe they have to eat in the car for lunch. Let's incorporate it. Let's be practical. You can't be frying up an egg in your car, although maybe you can these days. I don't know what Amazon has.
Say, these days maybe you can, but who wants to?
Right, exactly. And along with all of that stuff too, I also do a lot of lifestyle change. So maybe instead of bringing that plastic Tupperware container, that, you know, is leaking out all of these dangerous chemicals that can really affect your hormones, can put you into an early menopause, which is a whole different story. Let's try a glass one, you know, let's like easy swaps, quick, easy, you know. I will say Pyrex also is my favorite brand. They're not sponsoring this talk, but they do hold up to toddlers throwing them across the room. I will say that.
Oh,
They
really?
really do hold up.
Good to
Yes, they do.
know. Good to
That is
know.
They
good to
really,
know.
really do. Yes, and
Let's
I've
see if
dropped them a
peanut
million
fruit.
times and they hold up.
Right now, I currently have Band-Aids on both feet because non-Pyrex glass dishes do not hold up to them falling out of the refrigerator when your husband opens the door and cleans up everything but that one little piece that got tracked across the floor that you missed, and you step on it because nobody else in the house steps on it.
Yeah. That's like my life. My dog will poop in the house and nobody else sees it, and I slip in it. I'm like, why? Like, why? Like, why? It's just like a humble moment.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's
I knew
fine.
Coco
So
was right
humble,
for us.
yes. Because then
Yeah, I'm like, this is fine.
you wipe your foot on your other foot to get rid of whatever piece of food you think is stuck on your foot, and then you realize it's glass and you've now sliced your other foot.
It happens.
It happens, and Pyrex does not break as easily. So I'm good. I'm glad to know. I'm not going to throw it across the floor to test your theory, but I'm going to take your word for it because I do love Pyrex myself, even though they're not sponsoring us.
Yeah, they're not sponsoring this. We don't claim any rights. I don't know what else we have to say to not get
whatever
canceled
else
these
we have
days,
to
but
say. I have
I
one
love
more question for you from me because I know
yeah.
we're probably wrapping up soon, but okay, so how are you at Picky Eaters and finding ways to help them embrace a better eating?
Good
Oh,
question.
I thought you were gonna say something else. I was like, yes.
I probably would, but I couldn't think of a better way to end that question. So yeah,
I
we'll go with
know
it.
what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. So we have to think about picky eating, right? So sometimes picky eaters are like, ooh, I really like chicken fingers and French fries, right? Why do they like chicken fingers and French fries? Because it's the same every time, right?
Ah,
So that person might have an issue with change, right? You eat a blueberry, right?
yeah.
Blueberry sweet. Blueberry can be sour. Blueberry can be mushy. Different textures, different flavors, right? So it's a change. So sometimes what happens is these people latch onto the same. We like the same. Okay, no problem. Let's do the same, you know? Some people will, who are picky eaters, I have kids, so naturally they're picky eaters, and that's okay. I say, let's start from the seed. Let's start from the seed. We don't have to eat it. We don't have to eat it. But so I'll bring them to local farms, right? We see how the seed is planted. We watch the plant grow. You know, we go from there. We might see the produce in the store. Let them pick it up, touch it, feel it. And I think as adults, we're like, oh, that's silly. I'm like that. I would never do that. That is bizarre. But we discover foods the same way, right? We discover foods the same way. So if we're a chicken nugget and French fry person, sometimes we just need to check out a different food, right? So maybe we're a chicken nugget, French fry person, and you know, we never really got into peas as a kid. You know, we have a bad relationship with peas. And so as we're working on this bad relationship with peas, you know, maybe we wouldn't try peas, right? And some people would be like, and you know, I'll just eat all the peas, right? And they get sick, they get anxious, they get depressed, they don't like this, right? Because it's not the same. It's not the same every time. So what I tell people is, first of all, for kids and adults to accept a new food, it takes 15 times of exposure.
Okay.
15 times of exposure, right? So don't be upset with yourself if you're like, yep, no, didn't like this apple. That's okay. And you don't have to like the apple. In fact, no one is going to, like, don't feel guilty or ashamed of that, right? So instead of eating the apple or the peas by themselves, put them with the foods that don't change that you really like. So you have the chicken fingers and the fries, and you like those. Put a couple of peas on the side. No big deal. Exposure 1, right? You
Yeah.
move on. Days, weeks later, you put a couple of peas on, I don't know, a pile of mashed potatoes or, something like that. Unless you don't like your food touching, and you know what, that's okay too. You get the divided plate.
That's a whole
And
nother
you
topic.
live there. You live there, and that's okay. That is okay. The foods do not have to touch. That's fine. But you need those different exposures to kind of branch out to new foods, And I know my husband, he came from a family where he pretty much just ate the same food. He ate like Eggo waffles, loved hot dogs, and they used to call him Pizza Joe. His name's Joe, right? Pizza all the time. Guy used to drink a gallon of milk a day. Absurd, right? Absurd.
Okay.
When we got married, it pretty much was the same thing, right? And luckily his wife became a nutritionist. So like, that's great for him, right? We had to do the same thing with him. We found a vegetable that he liked, broccoli, right? We worked with broccoli for a year, just broccoli. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That is okay. And we had to be okay with that. And he had to be okay with that. And now he's like, let's try this different vegetable. He gets excited. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. You can't eat 15 meals in a day with your peas or your broccoli and be like, well, that was 15 exposures and I still don't like it. So what if you don't like it? Don't eat it. That's okay.
Right.
You don't have to eat kale. You don't have to eat broccoli. You don't have to eat those things.
Amy, you don't have to eat kale.
No, you don't have to eat kale. And you know what? Kale is a nice superfood. I will say it, but it's a hoax. Kale is actually not a superfood.
Really?
You can eat other vegetables that have more nutrients, that are more nutrient dense than kale. And the same thing goes for avocados. People become obsessed with these things. We also have to think about agriculture, food. Where's our food coming from? What does the trade look like in the United States? Why are we pushing avocados? Why are avocados really cool? Why is oat milk suddenly really cool? You have to ask yourself these things and then make informed decisions about what you're going to put in your body. Almond milk used to be super cool. Not cool anymore. Oat milk's cool. Why? And it really comes down to the ingredients that are being put in oat milk, the cost of production of oat milk, lower, make a bigger profit than an almond milk.
Wow. So they really don't want me making it at home then.
You can make it at home. I have an oat milk maker from Amazon.
What?
Crazy, right? You get organic whole oats or whatever. You can even get steel cut oats, but you have to soak them if you get the steel cut oats. But so I just get the regular oats, and you put them in your little machine with some water and salt, and like I'll put a little bit of honey in there, right? Just for some sweetness. No unnatural oils, nothing like that. But you also have to remember, because of those oils and everything like that, a milk from the store might taste fuller, right? It's going to be more sugary. Okay. So like when I first had my homemade oat milk, right? I'm not better than anybody else. I just thought, wow, this is freaking expensive and I want to make my lattes or whatever. I go through the same thing as everybody else, right? This is cool. This is a new thing, blah, blah, blah. It was like gross, right? I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I ruined this. I don't know how I did. I don't know how I did it. But without those oils and those different additives, it's going to taste different than what you had at the grocery store, right? Yeah. And I think that's something, we need to be okay with or make a different choice.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. We all don't have to love oat milk. We don't have to love all the cool things that are going on right now. You don't like avocados? That's fine. I personally don't really like them either. Sorry, avocados. But
I do like them. I don't like guacamole though. And I cannot stand almond milk. Oh,
That's all you.
Yeah. Yeah, and and that's okay.
Are you saying?
Yeah, and there's different alternatives. I think a lot of people see, dairy milk as bad. But let's think about dairy milk. Where are you getting your dairy milk? What are the cows? What is their life like?
Right.
Can you afford it? Are they, pasteurizing it? Are they homogenizing it? Like, what is going on? A lot of times with the pasteurization, homogenization, that's like the cleaning and like the heating up and stuff. Good, right? We don't get all the bacteria and E. coli and whatever else, God knows what else is in there, right? What happens is it just becomes this hormone cocktail. There's no vitamin D. There's actually no minerals or vitamins left in it. There's a great Netflix documentary right now. I think it's called like The Truth About Dairy or something like that. Very, very cool. That kind of goes through a lot of this stuff. But what happens is the company that, you know, is creating this milk has to add all the vitamins back in, all that synthetic stuff, so that it actually has some nutritive quality. And then we also have to look at who is benefiting financially from the milk. Who owns the company? Who owns all of this stuff? You know, you have to look at that stuff too. And that's what I do. I'm like crazy about it. I'm like, who just bought this company? I'm like, Johnson & Johnson just bought this healthy company, right? Let's look at Johnson & Johnson's track record, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lead and baby stuff. We have unhealthy chemicals. We have things causing rashes, deaths. I'm like, do I want Johnson & Johnson's healthy product?
Right.
No.
Probably
Annie's
not.
mac and cheese? No. Annie's mac and cheese is owned by Kraft mac and cheese.
Yeah.
You just
Annie's
saved me a
mac and
lot of
cheese.
money.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Oh my gosh.
And this is why you need Coco.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I know we've been talking forever. And I mean, if you've gotten this far and you're still listening to like me go on and on and on, thanks so much. I try not to explode like this, but like I love what I do. I really, really do.
And I have to say, I love listening to you. Yes. Because I feel like we could have this conversation all day. Like I could keep going. I know that we shouldn't keep going. Again,
Right.
there's things that you should or shouldn't do. But
All right.
definitely, you know, I'm going to say we're definitely going to have to invite you back again because there's probably
I'd love to come back.
more things we could talk about.
This is
Yeah.
wonderful information.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this. And I know that, like, after we get off here, I'm going to be going to your website and, well, I've already signed up for your,
Newsletter?
sorry, what, is it a newsletter that you send? I don't know what it was. I just signed up.
Yeah. You're like, I just signed up. I have no idea. Yeah, it's a newsletter. Sometimes I'll send different documentaries, just different informational stuff. The science is changing all the time. You just have to know where the reliable science-based information is. Stay off of social media.
Yes.
Unless it's somebody like me who, you know, knows cool stuff and the science behind it. And, you know, there's so much more than just knowing what to eat. It's knowing how to sift through the dietary information. That's all conflicting.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and finding the research. And, you know, it goes down to the very small molecules of our body. It really, really does. It goes down to the small cells. I mean, there's so many ways to, I mean, even the plant cells. So garlic, it's plant cells. So plants, just like us, when they have an external force that might be threatening them, they release different chemicals, right? Different phytonutrients, plant nutrients.
Yeah.
So garlic, if you wait 5 minutes after you crush and chop garlic, it has more phytonutrients than if you were to just throw it right in the pan, because the cells start reacting and produce all of those phytochemicals that are going to fight disease, because they're thinking, oh my gosh, something is happening. My cells are exploding, you know, and so it's releasing all those protective elements because it's trying to protect itself. Broccoli is the same way. Wait 5 minutes before you cook it.
Love this. What?
Love this.
Okay, so can I just say, God, like, how in the world did we not see God in all of this? Because what you just said blew my mind about the garlic and the photonutrient. I may not know that
you got it.
But and this is why, like, I'm so grateful. This is the first time I'm meeting Coco today. And Amy, thank you for introducing us, because I am so excited, because one of the things that I'm learning now, stress and trying to alleviate that stress and being so busy, you know, we're moms, we're like, I'm a homeschooler, Amy's a homeschooler, whatever, you know, we have so much going on. Sometimes you overwhelm yourself with trying to do all this research, and yet I could just farm it out, hire you to come and see what I don't have time to research and figure out on my own, because I don't have a degree in all of this. And even if I do find the information, how do I discern it? How do I, like put it together? And who's going to teach me other than you about phytonutrients? Because that's not something that I could probably ever read in a blog. And don't get me wrong,
Right.
I love blogs, but well, some blogs I love, but that's why I don't like
Right.
it, because I don't want people to go, oh, could you stop talking and go to the recipe, please?
So
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
can find Coco at
Yes.
just do your
practicalmamawellness.com.
Yeah.
That's
So
the best way to reach me. I have different programs, and I'm launching a food as medicine class soon. So you can either just do the class, or what I really do recommend for people is doing the class along with the one-on-one coaching. And you get the class automatically with the one-on-one coaching.
yay.
So yes, so it's all together. You don't have to worry. And I have my own app. So I'm in your back pocket. I have people go grocery shopping with me. I have some people, right? I'm in your pocket. I've some people you can message me, direct message me right on the app, and I usually respond right away. Because I'm craving some adult conversation after listening to Sesame Street for the 50th time.
Mhm.
So I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. The one-on-one coaching goes beyond that. I want to walk with you on the journey. And so that's really what Practical Mama Wellness is about. And hopefully after you do all this stuff with me, you fly free like a little baby bird, and you can go on to teach it to your kids, and your kids can teach it to their kids, and so on and so forth. So it is an investment, not only for you, but for your family too.
Yeah,
I love that.
absolutely. I love that. I love that. Alrighty. We have a couple of other things too before we sign off. The Women's School is opening up a new masterclass come January 31st.
Yes,
Jackie?
we have the new woman masterclass. So,
Yes.
and what's really great about it is that we are being offered, if you are not currently in the premium masterclass, then you can get up to 2 free classes where you will come on live with January, and she is going to present the new woman masterclass to everybody who joins us. And I have those dates, so you just reach out to me and we'll get you connected with that. If you are already, or you want to join the premium masterclass, then you actually can do all or as many of the bi-weekly live free classes all the way up to August. So that's a fantastic deal, because you actually get January, who's phenomenal at speaking. And, I think most of us get excited listening to her. She has a lot of
Really.
passion, so it just adds to it. So you get all the other benefits that you get through doing the masterclass with me. But you also can have this additional benefit, and we will also have a group together where we'll get together and talk about those live masterclasses too. So, and that's a really great opportunity. So definitely let me know if you're interested, and I will hook you up with that information, more information, and all the good details behind it. So, Amy, you got something coming up too, don't you?
Yes, and as the platform that I use is also the Women's School, but I expanded on, or my niche is health, and it's to help women overcome toxic nutritional beliefs, the yo-yo dieting culture, and just being here, the binge eating, the overeating. I help women overcome those particular challenges that they may seem to have in their life. I come as you are. I have a free binge eating support group that's meeting this upcoming Monday with Dr. Cynthia Almanisi. She's a clinical psychologist who also is just going to kind of be there just to walk this journey of overcoming our demons that we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
And also, I am also holding a class, starting a class on the 30th of January with Dish It Out Coaching, and walking you through your wholeness and embracing your wholeness to transform your health is what I do.
I
So
love
that's
it.
it. wrap, ladies. Thank you so much. This was so
This was so
edifying.
fantastic. Yes. This is like right up
Wonderful.
our alley, right? We talk about this stuff all the time, and now we have an
All the
expert come
time.
on here and kind of give us that
Thank
lowdown.
you. Thank
What
you.
do you do?
Yeah,
And
I went to 7 years of school, so you don't have to. You
yes.
just call me.
Thank you.
Just call me.
It is time to just give it to someone else and reap the benefits of your 7 years of equities, your sweat, blood, sweat, and tears. What I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And I gave birth to 2 babies during my
Yes.
master's.
There you. Oh wow, goodness. So there you go. Like you could have
Good.
2024 with, you know, each of us have a different area that we can help you in, and you could have like this whole new life by the end of 2024.
Exactly.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
for real. Now's the time.
Now's
Invest
the
now,
time.
not later.
Exactly. And go beyond January, because you know we all have those New Year's goals and resolutions that last through about January, February, maybe March. But imagine you're still growing in December. What would that look like?
Crazy. It's the accountability. It really is.
absolutely.
We journey with you.
Yes,
And that's the biggest thing.
that's right. And you know we kind of enjoy it, so maybe we're a little fun.
Yeah, right. I hope so.
I like to have fun while I do things. So, you know, I always have to work with people that I'm going to have fun with. So I definitely feel
Absolutely.
from here, this group of women. And what a blessing to be with you all this morning. So
Thank you. Thank you. Same here.
take care.
Yeah.
I'm going to sign us off.
Ciao.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.